What's up everyone? Today I want to share one of the fastest and most powerful Huntress builds for leveling in Path of Exile 2, Dawn of the Hunt. And it's a Lightning Spear and Companion build. So the reason this is so good is because Lightning Spear is already one of the most powerful abilities that Huntress has. It's one of the meta endgame builds. People are just destroying the endgame with it. And by adding in a Companion, we can get so much attack speed and movement speed that you can just fly through the campaign. The build's got everything that you need for leveling. It's got really good clear speed. You can just destroy entire packs of mobs in a second. And I'll show it behind, this is just while leveling. You just melt everything. It's got a really good combo for bosses. So we just destroy bosses really, really fast. And it's got a great mobility with thunderous leap. So you just bounce across the screen. You just bounce across every map, bounce, land, destroy everything, bounce again. You can also get up to areas you can't normally get to, jump over cracks, jump over like gaps in the map, things like that. So yeah, really good for leveling. The only thing you want to be careful of is it's an evasion-based build, so it is a little bit on the squishy side. So be cautious if you're like playing hardcore. This is a very squishy build. It's fast, it's high damage, but if you take a hit, you're going to feel it. Okay, so now let's quickly just go over the playstyle and how it works, and then we'll get into the gem setup. So we'll go into the early game, Act 1 and 2, when you only have like a few abilities and level 1 sport gems, and then how we build that into the final version of the full leveling build. Okay, so let's talk through how this build works, and let's just do this. So our main ability is Lightning Spear. Lightning Spear is where the majority of our damage comes from. It's just, you just throw a spear, it bounces around and destroys the whole screen. Now to combo that and make it more powerful, we have things like Barrage. Barrage is it's something you use like a buff, and the next attack you do will basically come out 3 times. So you'll do 3 Lightning Spears in one go. So that's just massive damage. Not much will get past that. We also have the Frenzy Charge combo, where you use Storm Lance with Electrocute to generate electrocution on enemies. That will trigger your combat frenzy, which is whenever an enemy gets electrocuted, you generate a frenzy charge, and then the frenzy charges can get used up by Lightning Spear to make additional Lightning Spears. That's the bulk of the build, really. I'll go over it in a lot more detail when we talk about the gems, but that's how this basically works. We have Primal Strikes for our bossing. So you jump in, use Primal Strikes. If the enemy's shocked, it does a ton more damage, and it applies lightning exposure, which just makes the enemies weaker to lightning. So you get in, you poke around with that, do a big chunk of damage, you get out, back to Lightning Spear. Bosses, not many bosses will get past a couple of those. Then finally, we have the Companion, and you can't really see it, but at the bottom, we have the Companion, and we have this Companion called Quad Driller. If you see this, you can see monster modifiers there, and it has the Haste Aura. Now, the reason we want that is we basically will inherit the aura of our pet. So we get the Haste Aura, which gives us attack speed and movement speed, which is incredible. And just by having the pet out, we have all of that. Don't worry about its damage. We just get a ton of buffs for having the pet, which is amazing. So yeah, that's the build. Let's get into it. Okay, so now let's go into the gems and the support gems in a bit more detail. We'll start with the early game version. So if you go into the build guide, this is the full build guide that will be out at the same time as this video. I'll link it. It'll be linked down below. But you have a mid game, which is like once you have your tier 2 support gems and you have all of the abilities. And then here's your early game version when you don't really have everything. Starting out early, this is what it'll look like. So let's go over those. And I will just say, if you do find this useful, if you do like this style of guide, do consider subscribing to the channel. I also stream if you want to come hang out there or see any of these being played as we build them, as we make them. So let's get into it. So the first things first is Lightning Spear. So Lightning Spear, this is our big damage. If we go over here, we take Lightning Infusion, 25% extra damage. We go for Martial Tempo for 20% attack speed. And then as soon as you find your first Jeweler's Orb, your first gem, I'd put a third one in and go for Retreat. The way this works is we gain 25% projectile damage if we've hit the enemy with a melee attack in the last 8 seconds. So this works really well with Primal Strikes. Primal Strikes is you jump in, you jump into melee range. If the enemy is shocked, you do a massive amount of damage, you do this big chunk of damage, and then you apply Lightning Vulnerability. You disengage, you bounce back, and then you start throwing your Lightning Spear, and you've also got 25% damage boost. So really, really good combo. I'd get that on as soon as you can. Then we go for Storm Lance. Now, later on, once we have the persistent buff Combat Frenzy, Storm Lance is how we generate our frenzy charges. Early on, I would just go for Persistence. I just put Persistence in there so they last longer. And that just means that when we're throwing these Lightning Spears, basically you just throw the spear in the ground and it's extra damage. Simple as that. So you just get them for longer. So, it's fine for the early levels. There's a little bit of a damage boost. Okay, onto Primal Strikes. Primal Strikes is our big melee attack. You jump in, you deal a bunch of damage, you jump out. The way this works is if the enemy is shocked, you will deal a ton more damage. and then at the end, it will kind of like absorb it and deal a massive hit. It's like a 3-hit combo. So if the enemy is shocked, you gain a lot more damage. Now, in terms of supporter gems, a lot of the good ones come later on, like the tier 2 and 3 gems. But early on, I'd go for something like Innovate, 30% lightning damage if you beat a shocked enemy. It works pretty well. If you can think of a better one that fits how you're playing, or if you just find one that looks good, go for it, fill that second slot. And you get your support gems, like your second ones, your tier 2, so fast that you'll get there anyway. But if you find something you want to put in there, go for it. Then Barrage. Barrage is how we buff ourselves. So you empower your next ability to do additional damage. Now, the one thing here is it can consume a frenzy charge to have an additional repeat. So say you cast Barrage and then you cast Lightning Spear, you will have then, when you throw your Lightning Spear, you'll throw 3. If you then consumed a frenzy charge, you would throw an additional, right? So it's quite good if you have frenzy charges. However, to save the frenzy charges, I would go with perpetual charge. So 35% chance not to remove the frenzy charge, but still get the benefit of using it. Then I would go for premeditation. So you get 15% more damage on any skill you buff. So that's really good. You can also use Barrage to drop Stormlance. So you could go before a boss fight, you could go like Barrage, and then you could go Stormlance, and you would throw out 3 Stormlances at once. So you could do that if you want. Yeah, that's all of the main abilities. And then on the persistent buff, so when you get to, what is it? Freyhorn. When you get to Freyhorn and you get your first chunk of Spirit, I'd go for Herald of Thunder. It's just a good all-around buff for AoE clearing. On that, I would go for Magnified Effect. So the lightning damage is in a bigger effect. And then I would go for Clarity for mana regen. Now, it sounds silly going for mana regen, and I know early on we're talking about damage. However, we have so much attack speed. We've got so much attack speed that you will be burning through your mana. Now, the only thing I haven't really mentioned here is frenzy charges. So later on, you'll get combat frenzy, and that will pretty much automatically generate frenzy charges for you. But early on, you don't have that, but you can still generate frenzy charges manually for that big damage boost, to empower your lightning spear or whatever else you want to use. So the way we can do that is with a brand new ability. So they added a brand new ability yesterday or the evening before, like really, really recently. It's not even on the builder yet. As soon as it is, I'll add it in, but I'll go in game and show you it. So if we jump out, close this. So in game, if we use a gem, you can see here, we have this brand new ability that got added to the game called Cull the Weak. Now what this does is you dash to an enemy. If they are low health, we will cull them, which means we'll basically just like destroy them, and we'll generate a frenzy charge. This works similar or like pretty much the same as the quarterstaff ability if you played Monk, called this palm ability here. This palm ability here, where you would go, you dash to them and you would cull them. It's the same as that. So if you use that, you'll be able to use this very easily. It kind of like identifies the monster that, they're low HP. You'll go over, you'll finish them off, you get a frenzy charge. You also can parry. Lots of people don't like parry. I kind of enjoyed it. You can try parrying. You use your buckler. You put the skill on your hotbar. You parry the enemy when it's mid-attack, and then you bounce back and you generate a frenzy charge that way. So they're the ways you can get frenzy charge early on. Okay, now let's talk about the mid-game setup. So how we take that from, early game to the final version, or, the mid-game version. Okay, so here's the changes I've made, and if I find anything else that works really, really well, any other gems that fit really well, try anything else, I'll update the build guide with it. But here's what I have done. So Barrage is the same. On Thunderous Leap, this is our giant mobility. This is how we just get around everywhere. I've gone for Untouchable. Untouchable gives us 25% increased evasion when we use the ability. This is a really good ability for jumping around the map, but if you do just jump into a pack of mobs, we have that increased evasion. If you're on a boss and you use it to get out of a big AoE or something, and you get clipped, you've got increased evasion. Stormlance, we add Electrocute at when we get our tier 2 support gems. That'd be like the first tier 2 support gem I go for. That will then let you build up Electrocution. Electrocution is how we trigger Combat Frenzy. Combat Frenzy is whenever an enemy is electrocuted, generate a frenzy charge. Now we've got 3 frenzy charges forever. So I'd get that in there straight away. On Lightning Spear, I went for Vault. Vault it looks confusing, but all you need to know is as you move around, you're generating like Vault charges, and that gives us increased damage and chain. So you can see here, it says when used, support skills expend the charge to gain extra lightning damage and chain. So perfect for just AoE clearing. So really good one to have. Not important if you don't, you see the damage doesn't change if you take it out. So it's just a nice one to have just to boost your clear speed. Herald of Thunder, I added in Magnified Effect, more area of effect. And then we still have Clarity in there. On primal strikes, I've gone for primal element for more elemental damage, and we've still got innovate in there. Combat frenzy, profusion, 50% chance to grant additional charge. So when you trigger the thing to gain a frenzy charge, you've got a 50% chance to gain another one. And then the only other thing on here is if I just pop myself down, we have the companion. So we have the quadrilla companion with the haste aura. And on there, I've got loyalty. 10% of damage from hits is taken from the companion before you. So that's just a really nice defensive to have, because you don't really need to worry too much about the companion doing damage. It's just a nice buff that it brings along with it. So let me come back. Yeah, that's all of the skills, really. That's kind of everything. The only other thing to add is if you're playing an Amazon, so if I go on the skill tree, if you're playing as an Amazon, you have this here, Elemental Infusion. I would go for this early on, as it gives you a new ability. It gives you a skill infused weapon, and this is your weapon becomes infused, and you can use those to gain additional damage. So it's like whenever you use a charge, you will gain an infusion. So you can see when you gain frenzy charges, you gain lightning infusion, which is perfect for a lightning spear build. So on your gems, you can put gems in infused weapon. So I've got long shot and brutality for extra damage. So yeah, that's kind of all the changes. If you've got any other ideas and things you might add to this, let me know. This is a very popular build, and I'm sure there's loads of people making, lightning spear builds. If you've seen anything cool, if you've seen anything that you think worked really well with this, let me know. But yeah, that's all of the gems. Now I want to quickly talk about the companion, how to get the companion, and how to get the companion with a haste aura. So the way this works is you need to use the gem. You need to use a skill gem, and you need to get Tame Beast. So if you get Tame Beast here, what it does is it turns it into a gem. I'll do it for you. It turns it into a gem. You then equip the gem in your tree, in your skills, and then you will then put it on your hotbar. So you'll go onto your hotbar and you'll put on Tame Beast, and then you go up to a beast in the wild. You will cast Tame Beast, and then you defeat it straight after. Use it just before you defeat it, and then defeat the beast while it's still got the Tame Beast buff on it, and then you will capture the beast in the gem. Now that means that beast is then permanently in the gem. You don't have to worry about like changing it. It's just permanently captured in the gem. And what it does is it captures it with any modifiers it has on it. So your goal is hunting down a beast with the modifiers you want. Now, some things I would recommend would be Resistance Aura, which gives you increased elemental resistances. There is a Defensive Aura. There's an Energy Shield Aura. There is a Haste Aura, and that's the one I would be highly, highly recommending. That's the one that gives you significant attack speed and really good movement speed. A really good place to do this is if you go over to Act 3 and you go into the Jungle Ruins. In the Jungle Ruins, if you go around here and you go up to like the top of the map, there'll be a camp with a checkpoint. Go there, and then what you can do there is you can literally walk out of the camp and there'll be a quadzilla. Is that what they call? Quadzilla? Quadrilla. There'll be a quadrilla, and they're the big like 4-armed apes. Find those things and they'll have modifiers on them. So they might have like poisons enemies and does electrical damage. You can then go there and you can respawn at that checkpoint as many times as you want, keep walking out and see what the mob is until you find the one you want. That's one way to guarantee you find it really, really easy. Once you find the one you want, go out, defeat it, capture it, job done. So that's one thing you can do to guarantee you get a good one early. You can then do that again like later on Cruel if you want, but yeah, you can do that early on Act 3 and get a guaranteed really good one early, or you can just capture a random one in the wild that has good stats on. Okay, now we'll do a quick gearing guide, a quick thing to look for on your gear, but don't stress too much while leveling for gear. This, you could go through the whole campaign and find nothing good. You could go to the vendors and they have nothing good on them. It's very RNG, so don't stress if you find nothing. I've not had the greatest luck, but here's some tips. So on the weapon, you want to be looking for physical damage, added physical damage, and lightning damage. So we convert physical damage to lightning damage. So with our lightning spear, so having a high roll on physical damage, like if you have like 50%, 100% physical damage on your spear, that's a massive boost. Additionally, if you're playing the Amazon, you want accuracy. So Amazon has a ascendancy, which gives us a crit boost if we have for every bit of ascendancy, for every bit of accuracy we have. So try and find accuracy on your spear if you are a Amazon. If not, cool. The next thing, movement speed on boots, level and build, move as fast as possible. On the gloves, you can also get attack speed. You can also get added physical damage, added lightning damage. The only other thing I'd be really looking for is spirit. So spirit on the chest, you can get spirit on a dex chest, and you get it on your amulet, like a solar amulet. There are 3 buffs in the game that we really want while leveling. We want the Thunder Herald, we want the Combat Frenzy, and then the Companion. The Companion takes spirit. It's counted as a buff. So to have all 3 at once, you will want some extra spirit where you can get it. If not, you can just run, like, you can run the Herald while mapping around and doing trash. And then on bosses, you can pull out your Companion for the really big damage. So you can play it that way, or you can try and find spirit and get all 3 at once. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. You can go for like added melee abilities and things like that, but this is a very mana hungry build, so be careful. If you get like +3 to all skills, you're going to have mana problems quite a lot. But if you can handle it, go for it. And then obviously evasion, life, leech, things like that are all good as well. The usual extra charm slots, the usual extra damage, extra resistances, things like that. But yeah, it's all on here if you want to have a look at it. But yeah, that's gearing. Okay, let's talk passive tree. And there's one thing I want to talk about quickly on the passive tree that is specific to Amazon. So if you're playing a ritualist, you could kind of like ignore this, but we're going to be taking a lot of accuracy nodes, and I want to show you why. There's this node here in the Ascendancy called Critical Strike. Chance to hit with attacks can exceed 100%. Gain additional critical hit equal to 25% of excess chance to hit. So basically, the more we go over 100% chance to hit, the more critical hit chance we get. Additionally, as we go down here, attacks using your weapon have added physical damage equal to 25% of the accuracy on your weapon. So the more accuracy we get, the stronger we are, right? So that's something to bear in mind. Now, if we open our skill tree, I'll show you on some accuracy nodes. We have like in here, we have critical hits here. You can see we've got the main hand crit chance. It's really low, it's 6%, but then it's plus 29% because we've got so much accuracy. If we took off these accuracy nodes here, so 12% accuracy, 5, let's just take those two off for now, right? We've got what, 29% additional accuracy. We've just lost 2% accuracy, right? So that means 2% critical hit because we've lost the accuracy. So every time we take these, we're feeding this number even higher. So it's good to take some accuracy nodes because that will build up the more we get. So if we start on the skill tree up here, we come along here, we're going to grab the attack speed, we're going to get the damage, we come along here. We want to get this cluster here because it has attack speed and the accuracy is a nice bonus because that's basically just going to push us over the critical hit threshold. So you want to get that whole cluster, lead into 8% projectile, 6% attack speed, 12% accuracy. Then I would come down here first. I would get this thing here, down here, 20% increased elemental damage from attacks. I would grab that. Then I would come along here and I would get this big node here. 25% more skill speed while offhand is empty and you have a one-handed weapon equipped in your main hand. That means you can take off your buckler and just use the spear on its own. So you see here, we don't have anything on our second slot, and that gives us 25% more speed, which means we're just getting so many attacks in. It's really, really good for just pumping up our damage. I'd go for that first. Then I would probably finish this cluster here. I started by going into this section here, but I think you're going to get more from finishing this spear cluster because you have like 75% melee damage surrounded, 25% damage, accuracy. You've got loads of attack speed. You've got loads of raw damage. You've got crit damage. So I'd probably get the spear cluster first. Then I would go and get this cluster here for skill speed, which is just even more attack speed. Then I'd leave this for now. I would get this cluster here, go up here to get the elemental damage, chance to shock, the harness the elements. I'd come up here for damage penetrates lightning resistance and added dexterity. Then I would come up to this cluster here, which is this one up here. I would go up here and I would get down here, 1% increased attack speed per 25 dex. So we want to be stacking dex as much as possible, which is why nodes like that gave 10 dex is really good. Come along to here and you've got this big dex, like dex cross, 25, 8, 8, 8, 8. Grab all of that. You can come up to here and you get 30% increased evasion and 8% more dex. Then, I don't know, that's where I am. That's where I am. I've got this cluster down here for projectiles have increased crit against enemies far away, which tallies up really well with our long shot and our, things that give us more damage at range. Now I'm testing, that's everything I've done. That's where I am right now. So you can stop listening if you want there. Right now I'm testing this cluster here, which gives us boost near our companions. So we have increased damage while in the presence of your companion, and you get 8%, 8%, 5%. And then as you come along, you have accuracy, and then you have 15 dex, and companions gain your dexterity. I'm testing companion clusters right now, but I'll let you know if it works. I'll have an endgame version of this when I get there and I've played it more. But yeah, that's everything. That's the build. That's everything. This is incredible to level. You will fly through the levels. You'll be bouncing around the maps in minutes. Really, really good. It really does take the pain out of leveling this league, which we need. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching. I'll stop rambling now. Take care. Subscribe if you want to see more. Come follow the streams if you want to hang out and chat or ask any questions. But that's it from me. Catch you in the next one.